What's up, guys? How we doing? Welcome to another Palaview Market Research Education video. Today, I'm going to be answering your guys' questions. You guys are asking a lot in the Palaview Instagram, which is great. So I got around to making this video today on what is a decentralized exchange, right? And this is a good question, but there's no way I can describe to you what a decentralized exchange is unless we first talk about what a centralized exchange is and kind of compare and contrast what make them different, right? So put together this slide to kind of help us talk through this, right? So on the left-hand side here, the bottom, you can see that we have this walled garden, right? And that is the right way to kind of visualize what a centralized exchange is. And on the right, you can kind of see this public park setting. And this is what a decentralized ecosystem kind of looks and feels like, right? A centralized ecosystem requires you to, be verified at the wall to get like to buy a little ticket to get in, right? To show your ID. And public park, you just park, walk in, you have the link to the Google Maps, the link to the website, you're in. Okay. So another way of thinking about that is permissioned versus permissionless. I'm sure you've heard that word permissionless thrown around in the world of decentralized finance or decentralized exchanges. And a permissionless environment is one where you do not seek permission, right, from an institution to do a certain thing. So say I want to buy some Bitcoin, I don't need permission from an institution to do that, right? It's just the software that's hosting this activity. Now, another way to think about this is there's a hierarchy, right? There's an institution, and the user is requesting transactions, right? Institution to user or user to institution, where a user requests the institution to do the following tasks so that they can receive X or Y thing versus decentralized is completely peer-to-peer, and we'll get into how that technically works later. Examples of a centralized exchange include Coinbase, Binance, and the New York Stock Exchange, right? Examples of a decentralized exchange include Uniswap, Trader Joe, Sushi Swap, right? And a bunch of other things, but these are just examples, obviously, right? Centralized exchanges are typically not on a blockchain, even though they can be in very unusual circumstances, and then decentralized exchanges are typically on a blockchain. When you're entering a centralized exchange, you're required to verify your identity via KYC. So that's why you're taking a picture of your ID and things like that, right? Versus on a blockchain or a decentralized exchange, you do not have to verify your identity at all because your wallet address is all it needs to actually start conducting transactions. Trades on a centralized institution are executed via order book, while trades are executed via smart contracts in a decentralized environment. And I think the most important thing that I want you guys to understand is how liquidity is hosted, right? So liquidity in a centralized environment is provided by fee takers, right? Or you can think about them like as a market maker, right? So there are decentralized market makers, of course, but in the centralized world, like the New York Stock Exchange, for example, about 20 to 30% of all the liquidity hosted on the New York Stock Exchange is provided by market makers like Citadel Securities, right? Which is interesting because it's like they're providing liquidity, they're the spread takers, right? So they aren't participating in the market, they share limited risk with the market, right? Whereas where liquidity is provided by users that share platform risks, right, is what happens in a decentralized environment. So, meaning, as a user, who uses, say, Uniswap, right, you are engaged in using that liquidity that's hosted there, and other users are the ones who are providing liquidity that's hosted. Okay, so I'm going to just show you what that means by hopping over to Trader Joe really right here. Okay, so as you can see, we're on traderjoe.com and we're on the pool section. And so we can go ahead and take a look at all of the different token pairs, right? So we have a bridged Bitcoin and Avalanche pair. We have an Avalanche USDC pair, which is the largest token pair with the most liquidity on this platform. So if we organize this by liquidity, most to least, you'll see some of the things that are, you know, the most liquid, right? The fees that are taken from it over the last 24 hours, the volume over the last 24 hours. And so let's see where the most volume's happening. So as expected, the most volume is occurring between Avalanche and USDC. So if we take a look at the orders that are taking place in the analytics, we can see how much APR fees are being generated by the liquidity providers, right? We can see the total Avalanche reserves. We can see the total USDC reserves, right? And then, of course, the volume and the fees taken from that volume in that time period. Now, if we were to want to participate in this ourselves, we would have to add 50 parts. So say we wanted to add liquidity to this, right? We'd have to add 50 parts Avalanche, 50 parts USDC in order to become a liquidity provider to this, right? So if I have one Avalanche, then I would need to add, I think, $37 or whatever the price of Avalanche is that day, $37 worth of USDC to this to become a liquidity provider. And then in exchange, they will essentially give you what are called an LP token. And the LP token you can think of as a voucher for, you know, it's essentially, yeah, like I said, a voucher that allows you to claim back that amount of USDC and Avalanche plus a little extra in the form of fees, right? Which are going to be very small if you were to put that in there because, at the end of the day, this is a lot of liquidity, right? So if you have to be, so say you want to be you want to get 10% of these fees, right? So I want to get a daily revenue. What would that be? $4,695. So if I want a daily revenue of $4,695, I would need to have 10% of this position, which would be $838,000. So that's really how this works, guys. It's not terribly complicated. But yeah, that's today's video. Hope you learned something. Hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions about decentralized exchanges, and if there's anything you guys feel like I missed in this video, please DM me or just add in the comments, and we'll just keep these going and keep providing me feedback on how these things go. All right.